10 people who survived the impossible Part 2. Can you imagine falling 33,000 feet from a plane, being stuck underwater for days, or surviving a huge radioactive discharge? All this appears to be a death sentence, right? But today you'll meet those lucky souls who have just reached the point of death and returned to the world once again safely. Hawkins has survived amyotrophic lateral sclerosis for 38 years, a neurodegenerative disease that gradually alters nerve and muscle function. Doctors were shocked because the condition should have gotten him no more than 2 years to live, but he lived with it for 38 years. According to doctors, ALS is a complex disorder with a wide range of symptoms, and Stephen was one of the fortunate few who turned the impossible into the possible. Well, all we can say is that he was the galaxy's most extraordinary celebrity and a true inspiration to both the disabled and the abled ones. Number 2, Anatoly Burgoski. Well, most of us have no idea what to do if faced with a sudden hazard, and we're all hoping to avoid finding out. This man was put to the ultimate challenge, but he managed to fight back and survive horrifying circumstances that could have killed him. So meet Mr. Anatoly Burgoski, a 36-year-old researcher at the Institute for High Energy Physics whose head accidentally got in between a proton beam while attempting to repair faulty equipment. Oh man, that's hurting. But what's surprising is that he didn't feel any pain, but he did see a flash brighter than 1,000 suns. Well, his doctors were mentally prepared to observe his death, but despite severe swelling and eventual paralysis of the left side of his face, Burgoski survived, leaving doctors speechless. Although the paralyzed side of his face hasn't aged, Burgoski continued his scientific career after this mishap, which is truly inspiring. Number 3, Anna Baggenholm. You never know when an accident will put you in a life or death situation where time and decision-making are crucially important. Well, the spirit of survival is within each of us. But this was proven by Baggenholm, who established a record for being the coldest person to have ever survived. Actually, Baggenholm was skiing in the mountains near Narvik when she fell into a frozen stream. She was trapped under a layer of ice in freezing water for 80 minutes, and her body temperature dropped to 13.7 degrees Celsius. Fortunately, she survived and lived to tell her story, which is both fascinating and motivating. Number 4, Ron Hunt. This man turned the meaning of death into a new form of survival. The Miracle Man, Ron Hunt, survived a horrifying accident in which an 18-inch drill bit penetrated through his right eye into his skull. On August 15th, Hunt was standing on a ladder drilling into a surface above him when the ladder collapsed. He dropped the drill and landed face first on the bit. The rod entered his eye socket and crossed behind his right ear. Thankfully, he suffered no serious brain damage. Well, it certainly appears to be a miracle. Hunt told in an exclusive interview, the entire sequence happened so quickly that I didn't even notice the drill coming. However, I've entered a new age of survival due to this horrific event. Number 5, Aron Ralston. If you've seen the film 127 Hours, you'll be familiar with Aron Ralston's story, but it's quite shocking for those who haven't seen it. So let's introduce the mountaineer man, Aron Ralston. Will be remembered as the man who lost his hand in a climbing accident after becoming trapped between 2 large narrowed rocks. Basically, Ralston was hiking in Canyonlands National Park in southeast Utah when a rock suddenly fell on his right arm, and he became trapped between 2 narrow rocks. He survived on packed water and snacks for 5 days, hoping to be discovered. After 5 days, he concluded that the only way out of this situation was to amputate his arm, which was trapped between 2 rocks. As a result, he had to amputate his arm with his multi-tool, which included a knife. After rescuing himself, he returned to his truck and proved that he miraculously avoided dying from blood loss. He is still a mountaineer and works as a motivational speaker. Number 6, Harrison O'Keene. Meet Harrison O'Keene, the underwater trapped survivor. O'Keene was the ship's chef. He met with an accident where the boat capsized. He was in the bathroom and tried but failed to reach an emergency exit door. O'Keene was trapped inside the boat, which began to fill with water and started to sink down. He's been in the deepest part that should have killed him in a situation that had killed everyone else on board. Well, he had lost all hope after 3 days, but then he heard a knock on the door. It was the hammer of the divers who were working on the ship's wreckage to remove the dead bodies. What's more surprising is that divers were not expecting to find a survivor. But Harrison O'Keene shocked the divers by surviving in that 100 feet of water for 3 days. Oh man, it's O'Keene's fate that he survived even with this much depth. Number 7. Angela Hernandez. This lady made a list after surviving a serious car accident. Angela Hernandez was driving down Highway 1 towards Southern California when she noticed a small animal walking straight at her. She turned left to avoid the animal but was hit by a rock, causing her car to become unbalanced and fall off the road and off a cliff 200 feet to a rocky beach. She sustained a brain hemorrhage, fractured ribs, a broken collarbone, ruptured blood vessels in both eyes, and a collapsed lung, but didn't die. Isn't it shocking how a person can survive even after such injuries? Well, we were shocked too. But thankfully, some hikers who came across a wrecked Jeep eventually found her in that situation, rescued her, and saved her. Number 8. Julianne Koepke. Nobody has it worse than this lady who spent her Christmas Eve in a terrible situation. Julianne Koepke was a passenger on LANSA Flight 508, but unluckily, the flight was hit by lightning. The lucky lady Koepke was strapped into her seat 2 miles above the Peruvian rainforest when it began to collapse in midair. She dropped down to the rainforest. Her collarbone had broken and she was badly bruised, but she was still alive, the only survivor of the flight. And now Koepke was all alone in the dark forest. Well, some candy and a small stream were her only sources of nutrition. The insects and maggots in the jungle infected her arm, making her survival in the forest difficult. But she was able to find a refugee camp after 9 days, where she was provided first aid and transported to a nearby hospital for treatment. Number 9. Caleb Whitby. If you could bottle luck, label it, and sell it in stores, we'd be in line if it came from Caleb Whitby. This 27-year-old farmer from Kennewick, Washington, probably thought he was a pretty lucky guy after he met with an accident. So last year, this guy was sandwiched between 2 trucks in a pileup in Baker City. This terrifying accident on the highway involved approximately 100 people. According to reports, the accident was caused by high winds and black ice. But he had a good fortune that stunned rescuers. Can you believe Caleb walked away with only 2 bandages? Number 10. Jose Salvador. Last but not least, meet this lucky man, Jose Salvador Alvarenga, a Salvadoran fisherman who was stuck at sea for 13 months. He's the first ever person in recorded history to have spent more than a year at sea in a small boat. On November 17, 2012, Alvarenga decided to go on a professional fishing trip with his fishing partner Cordoba. A storm struck a few hours into their journey and blew them off course for 5 days. The motor on the boat was also damaged. The 2 fishermen survived by eating raw fish and jellyfish alone and without food or supplies. Cordoba died after becoming severely ill from eating raw food for months. Alvarenga then spent another 9 months alone at sea until he spotted a small island. So, how was today's video? As we've taken you on the ride to the world of impossible survival, comment below and make sure to subscribe to our channel for more interesting videos. Till then, take care. We'll see you guys in the next video. Bye-bye.